chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos, by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' Crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another extra episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 422, recorded Thursday, April 14th, 2023. This is going to be releasing May 10th. We're recording in advance once again. We're going to be talking about a Patreon pick. This was chosen by your boy Kelvin, and the movie is Cure from 1997. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Randeezy. What's up?
Hello, Bob. Welcome. Please, close your eyes and relax.
Okay.
We're about to go on a journey together into the mind of whoever directed this movie. I don't have it in front of me right now.
Kiyoshi Kurosawa?
Kiyoshi Kurosawa. Yes.
Yes.
I don't have any follow-up to this, and I'm going to give it up.
Mind if I smoke? Is that cool?
Please smoke. It definitely is that good for me. So
Tell me about your wife. That's not
if
weird.
you have to
right?
ask, you'll never know.
That's not weird at all. Last but not least, calling in from South Korea, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy. It's Friday, bish. I'm in love.
Oh.
You boys ready to talk about some goth rock from the 80s?
Yes.
Yeah, man. That's what we're reviewing.
The Cure.
The Cure. Yeah.
Yes. The band.
The album that released in 1997, their famous album.
The Cure.
Yeah, no, I'm living in a nightmare.
Yeah, you know, that famous Cure album.
That one famous one. You know the one. I don't even have to say its name.
You know, everyone knows it.
The one. If you don't, you're a loser.
Galore, of course.
Google real quick. Oh, God.
Google or nothing.
From 1997, I'm sure.
Everybody knows it. Yeah, thanks again, Kelvin, for picking this week's flick. We do appreciate it.
Thanks, Kelvin.
Before we get
Thank
into
you,
the main event, though, let's tackle a little bit of housekeeping real quick. Another reminder, we do have our June poll pick currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this June. The theme for June is 90s Invasion, and the three movies to vote between are Mars Attacks, Independence Day, and Body Snatchers.
Oh, shit.
Whoa, Bob, that sounds like a different lineup than what we said last week because we also pre-recorded.
gives,
and there was
Bob?
another film that was listed at that time.
It's true.
Or time traveling, dog.
I had to go back and edit it out, and I'm sure it sounds like slightly weird if you listen back to it.
I love that I called it out.
Yeah. So now, if you didn't know,
You're going to tell me that I'm wrong?
grow up, bro. Grow up,
bro. Well, Bob, never mind. You can just edit all this out.
This is
No.
fucking
Keep
stale.
this in.
How those
This is what the
numbers
people
looking,
want.
Bob?
Disjointed
knows.
commentary.
It's still April. We have no fucking clue what the June poll looks like. No idea.
What are you talking
Take
about?
your-
I've been
take your
playing Zelda
guesses.
Tears of the Kingdom for a full week now. What do you?
Dude, I'm just walking around Japan, you know, hypnotizing.
Rob's just Rob's just tired from his recent excursion to South Korea, as am I.
We're exhausted. I
You
just flew
guys
in
didn't
from
make
Japan.
it back.
Dude, what if we don't? That's going to be weird.
So here's a funny story.
If we don't make it back home, the plane crashes.
This is the
going to
last
be very
episode,
grim.
y'all. Later.
So
It's going to be pre-scheduled. It's going to drop on time.
It will.
So
Yeah.
they just announced on May 16th that they're going to do this like North Korea drill, which they used to do, but they haven't done in like 6 years in South Korea. But it's not until after you guys leave, and I was like, damn, if
dude.
they were here, I would totally fake them out. I would like, because they do the sirens.
Oh,
and
shit. What the fuck?
And I was like, I would be like, those are the North Koreans.
I knew it. I knew it would happen.
But alas, it's good. They're going to be a month late.
I mean, there's very little chance that anybody else would be so cruel as we enter the country, but it still would be a good try.
I thought immediately of you guys as soon as that announcement came out.
Fucking terrify my friends.
I'm just kind of bummed that I'm going to miss that, though. Genuinely,
I know.
like, that'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine.
No,
All right. Anyways.
Yeah, make sure you get your votes in before the end of May, and we'll see what we're talking about this June. We're dropping mini casts, and I actually know what they are now because I've scheduled them. So we would have just dropped a mini cast on April 28th, in which your boy Soju talks about the HBO miniseries Chernobyl.
Oh,
Chernobyl.
I wasn't sure which one of which series was coming out. The HBO series.
Chernobyl.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is a fun romp, no doubt. That shit's actually amazing, though.
Man.
If you haven't seen Chernobyl, I'd highly recommend it.
Funniest show I've seen in a long time.
Real knee
Best
slapper.
comedy on HBO.
Prepare to laugh your guts out through your asshole.
I'm prepared. Yeah, going through classic horror. I think that's like one of the
I'll
scariest
just cracked
things.
himself up.
You cracked me up
Yeah.
with me.
That was your voice making you laugh.
used me to crack me up.
Oh yeah,
You did this.
people don't make people laugh.
But yes,
Bumps
Chernobyl. I was surprised that we had never covered it before. So classic horror television per usual. That's my thing this year. And yeah, that's I think like one of the like truly scariest things I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
really.
fucking terrifying and really, really well made. And then 2 days after the release of this show, we're going to have another mini cast dropping over on our Patreon feed. If you support us at the $10 level or above, you get access to all that. We're coming up on 100 episodes now, 100 bonus episodes. And I'm talking about the entire first season of that Amazon show, Swarm. This is a Donald Glover joint, and it was really good. I recommend it.
The old Don Glover himself.
Don Glover.
I thought it was a show about UNF called Swoop. I was wrong.
So close. It's so close.
Man, the amount of even our listeners that understand what you're talking about is so low.
Yeah.
It's too damn low.
There it is.
Swoop. There it is. Yes.
My moment of glory.
Swarm is pretty dope. If you have Amazon, I recommend checking that out for sure. It's definitely got some horror vibes inspired by Beyonce's Ravenous fan club, and
Delightful, wonderful fan club.
I mean,
beautiful people.
I'm sure they are generally beautiful.
They're faultless,
I'm sure.
blameless creatures, and we all salute them.
To be totally honest, I don't fucking know a thing about them, so they could be
Hail
whatever,
Beyonce, let's go.
Hail Beyonce. Swarm is extremely good. Check out Swarm. Treat yourself to it. I don't know if they're doing another season or not. It could end where it's at, or they could go on. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, mini cast.
You know what I always say?
I don't.
Fuck Taylor Swift.
That's yeah. The Swifties are ever forgiving.
And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it.
I won't
That
allow
one was for Logan. Shouts out to the headmistress.
Oh man,
Justin's just prodding a fucking 3 billion person bear right now.
3 billion bears, all at one time. That's the name of the Swift fan club. 3 billion beers. Beers.
3 billion beers.
Beers. Anyway, check out minicast.
We are 3 billion beers.
We got a lot of them. We got a lot of minicasts.
Keep them coming.
That's all I know about regarding our Patreon. There's probably YouTube stuff that you need to look at, but we don't know what it is right now. So check out the YouTube page.
You should probably keep listening to us. I don't know. if you want.
Whatever. Anything else you guys want to mention that we probably have released?
Recently, I will have presumably been on an episode of Horror and More with Anya Gore talking about The Innocents. I've brought this up already in a previously recorded episode, but I think it's still coming. So keep an ear out for that. Horror and More with Anya Gore.
Yeah, since I won't be around to promote it like I regularly should, shouts outs to Caitlin at Plug It Up for joining me on the latest Creature Comforts episode, which you can find on YouTube, where we covered The Butterfly Effect.
Nice.
From 2003 or 4 with Ashton Kutcher.
Nice.
The punked guy.
The Cooch.
Love it.
Cooch Magooch.
I will never be able to hear the name Ashton Kutcher ever again without imagining Don Vito and Viva La Bam calling him fucking Ashton Kutcher. I will never unhear it. I hear Ashton Kutcher every time I hear his name. And it sucks because that guy is a sex predator. So, you know.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
he
sorry.
Went to jail. He went to jail, didn't he?
He did some jail time, I believe.
Well,
you know.
At least there's that.
I'm not going on the record, but I'm being recorded, so I guess I am.
You are on the record. All right.
Man, we got ourselves into all kind of legal trouble this week.
Oh my God. This is the beef episode. We got beef with everybody this time around.
The Cure's mad at us. Taylor Swift fans are mad at us.
God knows the Italians have reasons.
They do now. Ooh, good thing
One of us has developed a bigotry recently.
And ageism is a big thing.
It's
on our
not
show now.
recent.
Oh, yeah. We got we got beat down by Hugh Janus recently, or recently as of this recording.
All right. Yeah, I think our houses are clean.
Are they, though?
His house is clean.
Let's get into the main event. We're talking about Cure, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob,
Hey.
show me the back of the box.
Ooh, the back. Look at all them words. You like words.
Whoa.
Look at them words.
Oh, shit.
That looks like English.
Ooh. Yeah,
What
that's not official.
What a
You must have
fake.
bootlegged that.
Yeah.
What a cheap piece of
Piece
shit
of
fake that is.
Shit. Yeah.
Fucking pirate over here.
Yeah, totally. You guys are really doing it for me right now. Keep going.
Oh man. Do you need some lotion? What are we talking here?
Can't talk.
One day.
Randy, you're
Oh
blushing.
no! Oh, don't make me perform. On
Don't
the
do
spot.
it.
Whoa.
Oh no.
Oh, you like
Randy
this?
Cave's under pressure.
Talking about Cure from 1997 with a runtime of 1 hour and 51 minutes. This was written and directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. Stars a whole bunch of wonderful, beautiful people that I'm not going to butcher their names. Plot synopsis brought to you by the back of the box is as follows. Kiyoshi Kurosawa's arresting international breakthrough established him as one of the leaders of an emerging new wave of Japanese horror while pushing the genre into uncharted realms of philosophical and existential exploration. A string of shocking, seemingly unmotivated murders, each committed by a different person yet all bearing the same grisly hallmarks, leads Detective Takabe into a labyrinthine investigation to discover what connects them and into a disturbing game of cat and mouse with an enigmatic amnesiac who may be evil incarnate. Awash in hushed, hypnotic dread, Cure is a tour de force of psychological tension and a hallucinatory journey into the darkest recesses of the human mind.
Don't touch that dial. You need to hear this.
You need to hear this.
Gentlemen, had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randeezy, kick us off.
Hey, no, I was very unaware of this film. It's entirely new to me from name on all the way down. Recommendation wise, yeah, I would recommend this if you're looking for certainly a foreign language sort of like thriller. Like this kind of like tonally is in the realm of like a Finchery sort of thing, I feel like, but with less pop music. But and maybe some like, you know, more static shots and stuff. Anyway, it's got a police procedural vibe to it, but it's also got, you know, a little bit of like you know, mental questioning and a lot of teetering on precipice. It's thrillery. It's very thrillery. And if you want to get into some pretty good Japanese horror thriller type territory, you could do a whole hell of a lot worse than this, I believe. Recommend.
All right, Juice, what about you?
Yeah, this is a first for me, complete blind spot, but yeah, I liked it a lot, and I completely agree with Rand Deuce. It's got Fincher vibes. It's you know, crime thriller with a very interesting premise, and I think that the cinematography is really good and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's just like a well-made film, a Japanese Seven, if you will. Robert, had you seen this before? Would you recommend?
Also brand new to me. I had seen it laying around, you know, browsing the Criterion section over at Barnes & Noble's. You know, I'd say,
on the floor of the house as I pilfer for their blues.
As you do.
As we all do, I am sure.
Bob's a B&E artist. That's where he gets all the blues, of course.
I've seen it hundreds of times, you know, in the blue bins of Barnes & Noble.
Laying around people's homes. Yeah, I'd never actually seen this. I didn't know much about it, but I do recommend it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I mean, like you guys said, it's sort of like a procedural kind of detective situation with Fincher vibes. Yeah, it's dark and moody. And it's pretty engaging for what's going on. I think it's pretty cool. So, got some questions, and we'll get into all that momentarily, but it sounds like a pretty straightforward recommendation from the Straight Chilling crew. So yeah, we're going to spoil the shit out of this movie, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, synopsize.
Please, and make sure you say all the names.
Yeah, I'm going to say a couple.
I forgot who was doing
Say them all with an Italian accent, though. I think that'd be fun.
Dude, it would be a lot fucking easier for me for some reason. Mamma mia.
Yeah, because, you know, because Juice is rubbing off on you. That's why.
Mamma mia. My boy, Mamma mia.
Kenichi Takabe. Kenichi Takabe is a police detective with a mentally unstable wife. Takabe investigates a series of murders in which each victim is killed in the same way, with a large X carved into their neck, but the perpetrator is different each time. In every case, the murderers are caught close to the scene of the crime, but they never have a substantial motive and can't explain what drove them to kill. Takabe and psychologist Sakuma eventually...
You couldn't get psychologist right. I have no hope for you right now.
Eventually determine that one man is the common thread amongst the murders, as each person he comes in contact with commits a killing shortly thereafter. The man called Mamiya appears to have extreme short-term memory loss and doesn't know who he is. Mamiya counters Takabe's interrogation with evasive questioning regarding Takabe's identity. This drives Takabe nearly insane as he realizes the futility of his case. Takabe discovers that Mamiya used to be a student of psychology who researched mesmerism and hypnosis. He realizes Mamiya has no memory problems and is instead a master of hypnosis capable of planting criminal suggestions in strangers' minds. In an archive, Sakuma finds a videotape of a mysterious man speculated to be the originator of Japanese mesmerism and shows it to Takabe. The man is depicted hypnotizing a woman in the late 1800s. The woman later killed her son in a manner similar to Mamiya's crimes. Sakuma says he believes Mamiya is a missionary of ceremonial murders. After showing the tape, Sakuma is revealed to have unconsciously drawn an X on his wall and starts to experience hallucinations. Several days later, Sakuma
Devil made me do it, did he?
He did indeed. Several days later, Sakuma commits suicide. Meanwhile, Mamiya is jailed and charged with incitement to murder. Mamiya finds Takabe fascinating, possibly because he cannot force him to kill. Takabe is tormented by visions of his wife dead. He feels that he might be losing his mind. The detective grows frustrated at his wife's helplessness and has her committed to a mental hospital. When Mamiya escapes, Takabe tracks him to a deserted building in the wilderness and shoots him dead, but not before Mamiya draws an X in the air with his finger. Exploring the building, Takabe finds and listens to an old phonograph cylinder that contains a scratchy recording of a male voice repeating what seems to be cryptic, hypnotic instructions.
Thunder.
The scene cuts to the mental hospital where Takabe has had his wife committed, and a nurse finds her lifeless body in a wheelchair with an X carved into her neck. The film ends ambiguously at a restaurant where a waitress serves Takabe, then suddenly draws out a knife after speaking to the detective, suggesting that the phonograph's hypnotic powers continue to be spread. Roll credits.
Well, damn. That was a pretty good synopsis, I gotta say.
Good job,
Synopses.
It's a lot
Good
of
job,
shit.
Bob.
Yeah, it's a lot, and like it's a very open-ended sort of interpretable ending. Not as much as some movies, but it's definitely got its interpretations there.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to hear what you guys thought about this film. I don't know.
Yeah.
Should we jump to the end or should we wait? Because I think that kind of informs a lot of the movie.
Yeah, we can talk about theories and stuff. So there's not a whole lot of trivia that I could find about this, but there's one thing that's sort of interesting. So like the Kurosawa has never like said this explicitly, and I missed this when I was watching it, but whenever they're showing that videotape, the old school like footage or whatever, apparently you can see the shadow of someone that is presumably Mamiya's shadow in the 1800s, which leads you to believe that he is indeed the devil incarnate, which is like an idea that they play around with in this movie, but that's not confirmed.
The devil is a motherfucking liar, so you know I ain't worried.
You know I ain't
Biatch.
worried.
His shadow is in the video.
Yes,
That's interesting. You think that's him like crossing across the plane? Because I thought maybe that would happen, that they would reveal that, but I don't know. That is interesting. I think that like the whole thing about Mesmer like completely colored everything I thought about this movie once I found out that was in the mix.
Yeah.
And I did some like I'd read a little bit about this at one point, not a ton, but I refreshed myself a little bit with some videos from Vox and so on. And I don't know how much you guys know about Mesmer. They cover quite a bit, but like basically he's the father of like not the father of his quackery largely inspired the hypnotist movement. Mesmerism was a huge deal with aristocracy in France and so on, and a few other places. He was run out of town by scientists a few times. But the way it was described in some of these videos was like, this was in a time when medical care was largely like bloodletting and leeching and all these like really heinous, fucked up, painful things that don't work.
Things.
yeah, that's
Give me some
that's
of
what
them
they were.
leeches.
I leech every day and I'm fit as a fiddle. And so like people were like that, and the way that he did it was far more of a performance than anything, and it's basically what led people to understand the power of suggestion and like the ability to like a placebo effect would take place in these people where they would truly believe that they were feeling better. It's the same thing that like a lot of like let's say like fortune teller type stuff, you know what I mean? All those sort of like pseudoscience-y things. There is a small amount of science to it, and it all comes down to what you believe in your mind about what's happening in front of you. So I think that colored my understanding of how this movie ends and sort of the nuts and bolts of what's happening. I really think that is what's happening, is that this whole movie it's hypnosis in the sense that it's giving somebody who is clearly repressed in our detective character of Takabe, and a license to be as angry and do whatever like he feels in his spirit, and it sort of unlocks doors that he is too buttoned up and too professional and too on the money with his work to ever experience or to allow himself to experience. And I think that's what he's doing with all these people. I think it's what Mamiya is doing with all these people, is sort of like it's pointing to an underlying anger in society And they talk about the society by name like a couple of times, and how there's like just things bubbling beneath the surface. People put on a facade, but underneath they might like take for example the police box guy who kills his partner, and he's like, yeah, I never really liked that guy. I mean, he wouldn't have killed him were he not given the suggestion that it was okay to do so.
So you might say the devil didn't make him do it, but the devil allowed him to do it.
Yeah, like if you put enough belief into what's happening or what this person is saying to you, and this I don't know, if you're drawn in such a way, maybe you can be suggested to indulge yourself in what you really want that is unacceptable by society or by moral code or whatever else.
I mean, I think we see that today where, societal shifts change, and what people wouldn't consider allowable or proper etiquette or, okay to do gets chipped away over time. And then once you realize like, oh, I have the permission to do this, like I'm not going to be like a societal pariah or something. Yeah. If I do it, then and then like it kind of allows people to kind of show that side of themselves. And I kind of took it too. I found it fascinating, this main character of the detective, because once I knew what this was about, I love that this movie becomes almost like this hypnosis. And I noticed not only does Mamiya try to hypnotize the detective, but the movie becomes this pulse of suggestive hypnosis. And I think that's very brilliant. But what I saw was a man who has to be in control. And the more he is not in control, the more he can't stand it. Like we see it, the situation with his wife, he tries to hold up a straight face with it. The situation with him losing the coat, the clothes when he goes to the cleaner, everyday little things where he doesn't have control of the situation. And I think what happens is this idea appeals to him in the end, and Mamiya sees that in him, that's why he can't be hypnotized. He lusts for this power in a way, because it's a way for him to regain control where he otherwise would have none. And I thought that was really interesting. I thought that they used that character very well to kind of sell this idea of this curse that you would see it almost, or this abuse of power, but then that lust for that power once you realize what it could do. And that's how I kind of took the ending. It's even if Mamiya is dead, this guy has seen what it can do, and he kind of wants it, and he's the one smoking now. And so everything permeates off of this man's life.
Right.
Because Mamiya even has this speech, we could talk about his intentions. Is he full of shit? Where does he come from? But all the things that were inside me are outside. So now I can see inside you. So this kind of permeation, outwards is kind of what I see the ending of this film is. Now it's the detective and everything from his life is being affected. So I thought it was cool as shit. I liked it.
Yeah, I think that there was a lot to what you just said. And there's some stuff about his sort of the idea of being an empty vessel that. All of that ties into mesmerism as well. For nuts and bolts purposes, let's say that mesmerism, as it originally started, was he's the progenitor of the idea of animal magnetism, which is literally using magnets to draw iron from your blood into certain parts of your body as a curing method. And he got this is the guy who got chased out of town, out of a country, for pretending to cure a blind girl. Obviously, that's not going to cure a blind girl. That's fucking ridiculous. And he got chased out of town for that. But in putting it into modern times where a lot of the biggest problems, and certainly with our lead character, are mental problems of societally, he can't unburden himself, in his own words, of his wife. But if he was to be given the license to shed all of that duty and all of that stuff that he considers who he is and just do what he wants. That's what they were saying. Like his psychologist friend was saying something like, if he's truly following the path of mesmerism now, then what he's doing is megalomania. Is it's basically, it's like sociopathy too, I guess, because it's manipulating the world around you by the power of suggestion in order to selfishly get what you want. You say that you're not doing anything for yourself and that you're shedding the individual, but you're able to eat better now, and you can smoke, and you can affect whoever you want, however you want, and you can pull the wool over people's eyes and pretend to have amnesia if you want. And if you're convinced, then it will be. So you are technically doing something selfish, even as you try and shed the individuality of yourself. I think that's really fucking interesting too, especially because, and this is a point that was brought up. I want to call out this YouTube video that I watched from a group called Cinema Nippon. So shouts out to them for this, but they were comparing like the facades we put up to like social media stuff today. Like we put out the pictures we want to put out, we put out the hashtags we want to put out, all that stuff. It's like a more like straight to the vein version of this, portrayal of who you are, but who you really are is not so simple as all that. And if you're not truly happy underneath all that, you're casting aside, you might look for something like this to empty yourself of responsibility and duty and all those other things so that you can just wiggle your way through life getting whatever you want, basically using this sort of methodology. I thought that was really, really fucking interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like my broad scope on this movie.
Something that the character of Mamiya reminded me of, specifically in relation to Takabe, is like the idea of an energy vampire from like What We Do in the Shadows. Because he just like fucking whittles this dude down and like relieves him of like any and all resolve that he has. And at the end of the movie, he's just like, fuck it. He just caps Mamiya in the head, and then it presumably also ends up murdering his wife. So he has like basically no worries anymore. And then he goes about his day as our new empty vessel, fucking up everybody else's lives, which I don't know. It seemed kind of similar in that way. He just like chipped away at this dude's sanity throughout the whole movie and just left him a shell of a human being.
And that's what's interesting. Yeah. Go ahead, Juice. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say in a funny way. I mean, but also in a true way. I mean, I think they're parroting this idea, but it kind of reminded me. It always comes back to Sunny, where they all go see the psychiatrist, and Frank sits there, and he's like, "You're not gonna break me." I'm tired. And then like she literally says nothing, and then he just like whittles himself down.
Yeah.
But like
the frog kid, I fucking love
oh, Froggy. Oh God, you broke through. Oh God, But I mean, this character and the idea of this character I found very brilliant because it's quite unique. But yeah, his like lackadaisical look and feel, and even down to like the texture on his sweater, it's very like noticeable. And later on when they take all his clothes, like he puts that back on. And I think it's important to this character, and I think the character's designed so well. I was pretty fascinated, like watching it progress. I would love to watch this movie several more times. But it's kind of that thing of just, he does exist in that way where he allows people to, it's like there's another person in the room, so it's okay to speak completely void. It's like the whole trick of I'll forget it in 5 minutes anyways.
Yeah.
That idea of like, well, I could tell this person anything, they'll just forget it. That's so clever. Yeah.
You were looking at it a different way than I was, because you just kind of touched on something that was interesting to me. Mm-hmm. It just occurred to me for those who watched the damn Ted Lasso show. There's that early season 1 commentary where he's like, what animal has the shortest memory is a goldfish. Be like a goldfish. And it's a method of like helping the player like who just fucked up get over that. And that's fine.
About it, yeah.
But
not
like
linger.
If you take that to a sort of like a selfish conclusion, like you take that to a much further conclusion down the slippery slope, you get to this point where it's like, yeah, nothing fucking matters outside of this moment. You know,
never learn a lesson. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can't learn a lesson because, yeah, exactly. You'll never, it doesn't matter what you like. That's why him being an empty shell, it's both selfish and lacks individuality. He talks about how he has no individual, like, whatever, liberty or anything like that. Like, he's just kind of floating around, but he's getting everything. He's never in any true danger for the most part. Like, people let him get away with whatever the fuck he wants because they are following the laws of the land, which say that you shouldn't treat a person with mental disabilities like a pincushion or like beat the shit out of them or whatever. Like, no matter what you think they may or may not have done, like you're supposed to act a certain way.
I love that aspect of the character because he's very disarming because you're like, oh, this dude doesn't know his own name. He's not a particularly imposing guy. He just kind of sits there and like stares off into space. So you're not afraid of him. And then before you know it, he's like all up in your brain, making you murder people. And I love when he's talking to the one lady at the hospital and she gives him some pushback because she won't let him smoke. And like, she's the first person that like says no, I believe. And he like fucking strips her down and you see like his true nature. And he's just such a son of a bitch and says like, you know, the women are just lesser than men and he won't let her look at him. It's like a really fucking like scary scene. And that's like one of the scariest scenes with him in it, really. Other than that, he's usually like fairly reserved and like disarming. But in that scene, he's fucking scary, man.
And that's the thing is like it caused it like his whole thing is like this movie's called Cure. So like what he's doing, he sees as a cure for the ills of society, which is the concealment of what you truly want out of the world. Or like just not embracing who you like your core lizard brain that wants what it wants and what she wants, what he deduces she wants, or what he convinces her she wants, however you want to look at it, is to just cut a dude open because she resents being treated like less than a human by other men in her field. So like he unzips her in Frank's parlance. I think that like that's the more interesting way of looking at it than what I think like the alternate route would be, like that there's something supernatural going on. I think that you could go that route and still get the same message, but I just think it's stronger to look at it like as the human brain being the mess that it is, honestly.
Now, there is one, and I'm really glad that we got several instances of this because I think it makes the film richer and the lore deeper, and it makes me want to consider it more. But there is one that is kind of throwing a wrench in it a little bit for me. So that's why I kind of want to talk about it and justify it in my mind because I can't right now. So as we said, so some of the people we see him unzip or whatever is, you know, the nurse lady, obviously the police officer, the guy who's got the prostitute in the beginning. And those all have like a similar thing in common where, you know, and even if we look at the detective, maybe there's some kind of resentment there. There's something they want to free themselves of. When they interview the police officer, he actually says, "Oh, I hated the man," and things like that. The guys with the prostitute, maybe he hates her for hating himself or whatever. But the one guy, though, who kills his wife and like deeply regrets it and immediately mourns deeply is interesting because there is a line when they're first starting to explore this idea of hypnosis and mesmerism and stuff. The partner is talking about, well, when you hypnotize somebody, you can't really make them go against their moral code. And so those other ones are interesting because it has the implication that underneath these people really wanted to do that. The police officer really hated his partner. He really wanted to kill him. You know, the guy really hated the prostitute. He really wanted to kill her, but not the guy with the wife. That one's really weird to me.
I agree. They don't give any they don't give us any reason to suspect that he truly does have underlying feelings. But the only argument I would make to sort of like quell that worry about that threat to the idea that we're talking about is that it was a matter of, it's not just a matter of unzipping. He rezips these people back up to some degree. And this guy was so well rezipped that he didn't remember meeting another guy. Like all these other people, they never even remembered meeting a guy.
Yeah.
They don't remember anything besides who they were before this all happened, which means that he's right back where he started, not the lizard brain that might have had some qualm with his wife that we'll never know about because we weren't in the room at that time. But the guy who loved his wife and knew better than to let those impulses cause him to do something insane. So I don't know, that's maybe bending over backwards for the theory, but I see your point though, because if you take it at pure face value, he doesn't we're not shown any reason to suspect that he has resentment towards his wife.
Yeah.
Except for I guess you could maybe say, I don't know, this is again bending over backwards, but she doesn't work and he does. Maybe he resents that he has to be the breadwinner, but I don't know. That's all speculative on my part.
I guess it's just hard because he does break down. Like he has the actual breakdown where we see the cop is just like, yeah, I shot that guy. And so it's a weird split. Yeah. So it's a weird split to say like, I didn't want to kill my wife. Oh my God. I deeply regret it. I don't know. It's a weird progress of like the lore and the thought.
It is. It's a confusing thing, but that's all the more reason to think that this guy, to me, is not supernatural. He's just fucking doing shit that he can do to people.
I don't like the idea that he's supernatural. Yeah,
I don't either.
I kind of thought it was cool.
Really?
Well, tell us why. Go on.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's like all that fucked up stuff that they find in his apartment, like the twisted up monkey and like the like blood in the bathtub and stuff. So it made me start to think like, I don't know, maybe he did some sort of like ritualistic thing. And I mean, he could still be trying to like manipulate people, but then like when they're in that like broken down, it's like trance-like state, he can then like transfer the devil into their body and make them do whatever he wants to do.
I see.
Some sort of combination of the two. I'm kind of doing a lot of like work putting that shit together myself. There's really no evidence for it. I just like that ambiguity of it and the notion that they play around with like that he is the devil incarnate. And if there is a shadow in that like old school footage, then maybe it is some sort of like combination of the two, I guess. Like maybe Mesmer opened up the gateway for the devil to inhabit him first, and then he jumped from body to body, and now he's in Takabe at the end of the movie or something like that.
It's one of those brilliant kinds of movies where it can definitely be both, and it has the same net result, which is so interesting. Because like if he is in that shot, like you could argue either way. You could argue, okay, so he's supernatural, or you could argue, okay, we have an unreliable camera on our hands, which we have throughout a lot of the movie, and we're seeing what Takabe is seeing rather, and he's seeing him there because he's engaged with all of this thought. It's affecting him. We know it's affecting him. And it's like, and you look at who he is as a person, like, Mamma Mia as a person.
Here we go.
Really going Italian.
You look at him as a person, and he's unzipped himself. So like he doesn't. I don't know. He to me that he's purged himself, so he kind of has a little more agency. Maybe I don't know.
I like this movie either way you interpret it, but like just generally, I think the idea of like mesmerizing someone or like hypnosis is just like kind of cheesy to me. And if he is like the devil himself, it gives the movie like a little more edge and makes it scarier, I guess, for me. Anyway.
See, I like it the other way, and the way that we talk about kind of like in the similar way we talk about maybe Eggers taking something that, is now played up for children or, has taken all the juice out of something, but taking it back to its roots or making it scary again or, So in that way, I like that there's this film that has a representation of that thing because, of course, we see it in the cartoons or you're getting sleepy and all that shit. And so it's kind of taken some of that juice out. And so I like to have a movie here where this idea is represented in the horrific fashion that it could be used or abused if it were real, you put
the juice back in. You
put the juice back. You can juice now. Yeah,
you gotta get the juice now.
So I like it in that fashion.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And like the thing is, like it can be taken either way, and it's strong. It's kind of strong either way. But the way I see it is that there has to be some kayfabe here. If this is not supernatural, then he is the most gifted mesmerist that's ever lived, because mesmerism and hypnotism in particular depends on willingness of the participant. So the reason you and I think it's cheesy, Bob, is the same reason that it's considered quackery. It's because it only works if you believe the performance you're seeing in front of you. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of kayfabe entirely. So I don't know. But I think it's just there's a lot of push and pull to that, and I like what it has to say about what we hide underneath our veneers of self in our societies in order to fit into our societies, and what it would take to get somebody to behave in a way that runs completely counter to that and destroys that part of themselves.
Yeah.
Did you think that he killed his wife?
That's how I
see that one brief shot.
Well, even before that, I love the ambiguity. Maybe, but I love the ambiguity of even the partner dying.
Yeah.
Because as we progress towards the end, once he visits Mamiya in this area. In the prison cell, I guess. And then he visits him a couple times. I love that they try to shift the blame where he's like, you went to go see him, didn't you? But it's really all the things to do with this guy's personal life. And honestly, what I like about it is it completely goes against what I thought was going to happen as the movie progressed, which is great. Because as I saw it, the shots where he goes home, for instance, he keeps going home, and each time it's darker and, more he's more downtrodden and stuff like that. But you expect this scene that they give you way before the ending where he shows up and his wife has hung herself, or I was expecting a 7 essentially where, oh no, we're seeing this guy hypnotize people, and you see the strong cop who's gonna try to get him no matter what, and you got this vulnerable wife, and then that's gonna be used to take down this cop and really humble him and show him he's not in control. And so I thought that that's where it was going, total 7 style. And so for them to take that and go a completely different route, I thought was really smart. So whether he killed his wife or not, I think it's part of the ambiguity and the idea of did it transfer? Did he take the power or something? But I like that even more. The idea of you think what's going to happen, and then they totally just don't give you that. And that's
I didn't necessarily foresee that eventuality, so it didn't really strike me as it didn't strike me as a terribly effective subversion or whatever, but I did like where it eventually went. And I asked why, if you guys believed that he killed his wife, because of that, what you said before, which is it kind of doesn't matter. And I keep coming back to that because it really doesn't. The same net result is the same. If this is a matter of we're being shown flashes of things as he sees them, as we've been seeing that happen throughout the film, then to him, she's dead. Whether or not he killed her in the hospital, whether or not because even all the locations that it flashes to are very confusingly similar, and I think that's intentional too. There's not a lot of distinction between the mental hospital where they're keeping his wife and the mental hospital where they're keeping Mamiya, or even the police station. They all kind of have a similar vibe to them. Everywhere you go, it's very, very samey. So and even his whatever that forge or whatever that Mamiya had stayed at, his office, the office is distinctive, but the actual building itself is a little bit indistinctive. It's tough to keep track of those locations. So I think that it's kind of an untrustworthy narrator seeing what he wants to see, and it's him untethering still whether he actually killed her or not. And it's just another one of those things that I think is really strong about the movie.
And even their relationship, if you just followed that arc, it's, I think, very effective, even in the idea of, like you said, whether she's actually dead or not, through his perspective, she's gone. And we even see that. I mean, we don't even need a scene of her dead necessarily. I guess it puts like a period on the sentence. But I mean, the progression that he goes through at first, like being very supportive, being very loving, saying like, hey, we're gonna go on a trip and keep, we're going to Okinawa, and then he shows up and he loses his cool with the steak or whatever, and then to the point where he's dropping her off at the hospital, and that had a really impactful moment where like he doesn't even walk her to her room or anything. That made me so bummed out, dude. That was such a bummer to me, where he like walks her up, and like the bus scene was good, where like, we're not going on the trip or whatever, right? Yeah, I know. She's like at the hospital, and as soon as like somebody else is in control or like has responsibility, he bails. Like immediately, like the doctor takes her, he bails.
Well, I think that leads us into believing like he kills her at the end to like fully abdicate himself of any responsibility of his wife, because he's that's what was in his heart or in his mind, or
I kind of took that to be like to be him protecting her to some degree from himself, because he felt himself untethering. Yeah. So like, that's interesting that you felt that way. And it's so crazy. All roads lead to Rome on that, Yeah. I did want to also bring up though, like cinematography wise, did you guys notice in those bus ride shots, how like it was just like sky passing laterally behind, like perpendicularly rather, behind him.
Yeah.
Like the sky on the outside of the bus that they're riding on, it's like faced backwards from as if you're at the front of the bus and you're looking back at the back seats. They're sitting in the back seats, but all of the clouds that you see in the background, it's only clouds, and they're all like moving left to right. So it's like complete dream world shit.
Like, yeah.
I thought that was fucking great. Like there's a few things like that are like pretty indicative that he's unzipping, for lack of a better word.
That's cool.
Yeah. I liked speaking of the cinematography, it was just the overall like monochromatic kind of look, the dull tone of this movie. I really dig how that looks. I've only ever seen, I think, one other Kurosawa movie, Pulse, and it has that exact same look to it. And I really like that muted it sort of like lulls you into like a kind of like this like mundane sort of like chill like mindset, and then you're just watching these like really horrific things happen on screen too. It feels like, it makes it feel like more real, more tangible, I guess, in that way, as opposed to like the blue ass movies that were happening in America in the early 2000s. It's just like not real,
oversaturation.
Yeah.
Well,
that extends to the sorry.
Oh, no,
that extends to the soundtrack also. Like there's like this movie reminded me just a little bit of like Memories of Murder, the Bong Joon-ho film.
Yeah.
Where it's like, in terms of way it looks and feels, there's not a lot of music. And when it is music, it's very intentional. And it's like this thing where it just feels like cinema verite, sort of like looking, it's not documentary, but it kind of has that feel anyway. Like, because it's so grounded in its visual style, even as hectic, insane things are happening. They're not putting huge stingers in things. They're just letting it sit and letting you kind of grapple with what you're seeing. It's effective, man. It's real effective.
Yeah.
It's the A24 model.
I think the episode has come out at this point. We're talking about it, but we talked about The Ring, which just came out a year later in Japan. And it had a different, but like a similar kind of vibe where, we might reference American films of the time, especially in the early 2000s, where it was like this color palette and like oversaturation and things like that really ages it poorly. But this approach, it holds up so well. Like it looks good for a movie that's 30 years old, at this point.
It looks great.
It looks fantastic.
This movie specifically is often looked at as the progenitor of the wave of Japanese horror and thriller that came out. This sort of like kicked that off. So
gotcha.
Because of this, we got Ring, which we just talked about last week. If you guys need to watch Pulse, man, I know I've said it before, but if you guys,
I should watch Pulse.
Watch Pulse. It's fucking great. We need to talk about it on the show too. It's good.
Somebody needs to pick it.
Something occurred to me, and I don't know if this is the case or not, but something I found out about through I think it was through the Vox video about mesmerism. This is a complete non sequitur, by the way, but is that part of the show that was mesmerism involved an instrument called a glass harmonica. and it was like kind of like from what I remember hearing, it was not as unnatural sounding, but it was kind of an abstract sort of instrument that was in the realm of like a theremin type of thing, but like quieter and more like darker, the duller tones. And I'm wondering if that's what that needle drop was as he's finishing his meal at the last scene of the film, because the music does finally sort of kick in, the non-diegetic or whatever, like the non-internalized music starts playing. And I can't remember exactly what it sounds like, but I'm wondering if they did that. It would be super fucking cool if they did.
That would be dope. I want to look that shit up and see what it sounds like. There's something that I found out just like reading about this a little bit, like as far as like the sound design goes, whenever Takabe is on screen, like you said, there's not a lot of like music playing. There's not like strings happening, but there is like a very dull, like rumbling sound that apparently is a washing machine. And throughout the movie, I guess his wife is often doing laundry.
Yeah, turning it on.
And so that just sort of like that rumbling just like stays consistent, I guess, to sort of represent like
that was
his home life rattling around his brain constantly and like driving him.
That was such a David Lynch sounding sound too, like just that low hum of ominous feeling. And it's just kind of on one scene and then it's absent and then it's on. Like it's almost hypnotic in and of itself, both when it's playing and when it's alternating playing and not playing.
I like, and even like I said, once I figured, once they introduced the hypnosis thing, even when Mamiya's like talking, he'll like pick something up and like drop it and it makes this tin and the tin bowl or this clang in the tin bowl, and even him taking the chair at the end and like kind of beating the radiator, but it's not in this rage-induced like chaotic sound. It's like still rhythmic, and I don't know, it was just throughout this film, it was very smart, and like it was exciting to just see such good craft. Like this film is crazy. You guys were talking about some shots. One shot that I loved was when he finds his wife, he's looking for her. She's left the house, and then she's at the top of the stairs, but they shoot it like from down at the bottom of the stairs, and like the way that the stairs like frame the shot and like take it all the way down to the corner of the frame, and like they're like up in this top. I was just like really, really good cinematography.
Yeah. There's a lot
I don't
of
have
shots.
a lot of like dings for this movie. I'm sorry, Bob.
There's a lot of shots like that in this movie where like the primary action is at like the top third of the screen or like crammed over in the corner. And there's a lot of like other action happening, but it's not where your eye is because it doesn't really, it's almost just like noise. And you're like trying to cut through the noise to see like what the important bits are of the movie. I like that. It's
I wonder if that's a play off hypnosis as well. The way you were describing it made me think, because the idea of
so boring.
Well, no, the idea of like people, even like the cop or somebody else said, like, why did you do it? And he's like, oh, it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. You're not out of your mind. But it's almost like those videos. What it made, when Rob was describing it that way, what it made me think of was those videos where the people are dribbling the basketball and you're focused on the basketball and the bear dances behind them. And they're like, did you see the bear?
Like, and how many people have a basketball in the shot?
Exactly. So it's kind of like one of those things where even when you guys were talking about the bus, like I was focused on the people. I didn't even notice some fucking weird ass clouds going behind, going behind them. So it could be that kind of thing where your eye is focused, even though there's a shit ton of space all around and other shit going on. And it might be important. It might be wacky. It might show you like, oh, somebody's in a dream or something, but you're focused on something specific. That's pretty cool.
This is an interesting bit of trivia. There's actually 46 dancing bears in this movie.
Whoa.
Pretty wild.
I counted 69.
I only count.
They were all fucking. They're
and dancing
and dance fucking.
Dance fucking,
as you do.
It's bears. The craze that's sweeping the nation.
They were yiffing.
Were they real bears or were they furry?
No, they're furries. They were yiffing.
Okay,
actually,
thank God.
Actually, in all seriousness, some video that I watched, I think it was also the Cinema Nippon, which they did a great job, and I want to call them out for some good thought starters. I think it was them that called out that there was a lot of elephants in this film. I didn't notice a bunch of them, but I noticed a couple. There's like just like ceramic elephant on somebody's table or whatever, and it's like just little things which are like known for being, you know, a memory of an elephant. It's like long-term memory. They grieve their entire lives for their lost parents and shit like that. Like,
oh, poor elephants.
So like, yeah, I'm sorry to bring the bummer to the table, but like complete total opposite of what is being advocated by this Mamma Mia guy. I don't know. So there's a lot of like memory is just a huge theme, I guess, is what that comes down to.
Yeah. There is apparently an alternate ending to this movie, or I guess it's more like an extended ending where we actually do see the waitress pick up a knife and go kill somebody just to confirm your suspicions. But I like that they left it open-ended, though. It's kind of a nice question mark.
Because she works in a diner.
Yeah.
You know, maybe so we were hypnotized into thinking she was going to kill someone.
Yeah, she picks up the knife and you're like, oh, there she goes. But it's like, she works in a restaurant.
Picks up the dagger, runs down the hall.
Don't touch me.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Any other major points you guys want to touch on before we rate this thing?
I have no major points.
All right. Well, feel free to bring up your minor points as we wrap this bad boy up. Out of 5, Juice, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel about Cure?
Well, I really like this film. This is a really good film, and I like that I'm not crazy about the idea like, oh, he's the devil or he's supernatural. But what I do like is that it's open-ended enough and has threads that you couldn't really pull that apart. And if that appealed to you or that works for you, then that also works too. But it doesn't really take away anything necessarily. So as you were talking about, maybe this is some kind of blood sacrifice, like the monkey, he killed the monkey and the monkey allowed the devil to cross over. And then as you kill people or whatever, that's fine too. But, I like that it works in different ways, but equally as good, because this film just feels like really well crafted. And I always appreciate that so much. These characters are complex. I found the detective, really fascinating. And this kind of representation for society in a way, not necessarily, but I like the threads that they pull at that too. And I like that they did, different genders and different peoples of statuses and just like the underlying hum of like dissatisfaction underneath the surface and being given the permission to kind of like let that go and where it leads. And, again, I like the idea of it being hypnosis for the idea that I said before of having this film that doesn't kind of take the piss out of things like that. Not that I take it seriously in a real way, but just to have something like that lingers in the back of your brain. I think that's fascinating about horror. It's like, is there something in my closet? Could something come after me? It's like, could somebody convince me to kill somebody? That kind of idea. I think it's more interesting in that way than like, I'm not as worried about, is the devil gonna possess me? So yeah, I don't know. I like that there's a well-crafted film that has that at its premise. So you can kind of almost like check that box. Like if you're really jonesing for this kind of movie, like you've got this and it's like, it handles it for you. This movie, it's beautiful. It holds up really well. The characters are interesting. The killer, I think this killer is great. Completely different from what you see from most killers. Not chaotic, not, pursuing you, just kind of like accidentally falls into your life and there's nothing you can do about it, really, like just picks you apart, no problem. And like this style that they set him up in, his little like skinny ass stash and shit, he looks so unopposing, like he looks so swirly. But it just works. It works perfectly in that way. So yeah. I really like this movie a lot, and there's nothing that I would say like, oh, they didn't really handle that well, or this doesn't really add up well. Though I guess the only thing would be that one guy who killed his wife, and we don't really know why. But I mean, I just wanted to ask the question just because I couldn't quite figure it out, and maybe you can't figure it out, or maybe you can, but it doesn't bother me enough to like really say that's a big flaw in the movie, and the lore falls apart because of it. So I might give this a 5-star. This movie is badass. I really liked it. It was
Holy
fucking
shit.
good. I mean, I've got good taste, Criterion,
I've got good taste. That's the best way to end any review. Well, I have good taste, so here's the correct answer.
But no, I mean, yeah, I could totally see why this is, a Criterion film, and it's just, I think it's a 5-star film. I was happy to experience it.
You know what else is on Criterion? Solo.
Wow.
And Chasing Amy, and we all
silence.
That's a
maybe I just don't get it.
Everybody makes mistakes.
We get it.
Bob, out of 5, how do you rate The Cure's first album? Not Galore, but
baloney.
Show me. Yeah. All right, Bob.
Yeah.
Out of 5.
I like this one quite a bit too. I love the mood and the atmosphere of it. Like I said, the cinematography just sort of like lulls you into this sense of just like, I don't know, it hypnotizes you really at the end of the day. We've kind of mentioned that already. I love the look of it. I think it holds up really well. It starts off as like a really interesting police procedural, and you're seeing these people die, and you're trying to put the pieces together along with Takabe. And then as he like starts to figure stuff out, it gets a little more supernatural potentially, which I really like that when it sort of opens up, and the ambiguous ending is really nice too. I dig that. And Mamiya is just like such a son of a bitch. He's such a great bad guy. It's like when Takabe finally snaps, which is sad, but like just caps him in the head, you're like, oh, thank God, that guy's finally gone. Like, he's such an asshole. There's some like really intense gore sequences as well. That one scene with the woman in the bathroom who's just like peeling the skin off of this dude's face.
Oh yeah,
it's like really, really intense. There's also like that really interesting edit that they make with Takabe. I think he's driving in a car, and like he just starts flashing like quick cuts, like flashing to like random rooms and shit. Which is kind of an interesting, I guess, nod to like him finally coming unglued or whatever. Just like interesting little choices like that, and with the clouds behind the bus, and I really like all that stuff. I dig the overall ambiguity of it, whether he is or is not the devil, whether mesmerism works or not. I think the more interesting option for me would be the devil route. I'm not worried about being like possessed by the devil, but I'm also not really worried about anybody hypnotizing me. And I just find the devil option more interesting, I guess. But you can, interpret it either which way, and I think it's totally fine. It holds up well. I don't have a whole lot of negatives. I don't know that I'd give this a 5. It doesn't feel like a 5 for me, but I'm still going to come in with a 4 for Cure.
4 point what?
4. Even.
Point what?
Even. It's 0.0.
5?
0.0.
4.9.
Seems a little low, Bob.
4.69.
Kind of waiting for the rest of that score.
He already told you what the correct score is from the good taste maker.
Bob, don't you want to have good taste like me?
Don't you want to just lie to yourself? Randy,
we are very impressed.
Randeezy, how do you feel about
Bob? 4 point what, Bob?
The lighter's out.
What are you thinking? 4 point what?
Tell me about your wife.
My wife.
Mamma mia, my wife.
Randy, follow that up with
now that your joke is over. Can I give my score?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, I largely agree with most of what you guys had to say. I tend to agree with Justin about like the more interesting aspect is the mesmerism, the hypnotism, that sort of thing. Not because I'm afraid of that, but because of what that says about the human condition instead of, demon possession or whatever, which I'm not terribly concerned with. If that's something I ever understand, my head's going to melt. So I'm not rushing to that conclusion. They can keep that lore. For me, it's what horrors lie beneath the surface of a human being. So anyway, that aside, like all the things we talked about still hold true. I think that this movie does kind of lull you into a hypnotic state to some degree. Like I was thinking about things I didn't like about this movie, and I was trying to come up with okay, what are my real quibbles with this that I can point to and be like, okay, this might be an issue. And there's the one guy like we talked about. I think that might be something that nags at me a little bit. The teacher, but more than that, it was like that hypnotic feeling. As much as it's thematically appropriate, I kind of I felt myself not having any blood pumping throughout any part of this movie, even the cathartic moments. And even if that's an intentional choice, it's I don't know. It kind of doesn't feel, I don't get the full release that I want out of it. So I think maybe that's a little bit of a drag. And also bear in mind that I watched this movie for the very first time with no prior knowledge, an hour and a half ago. So I have a lot of recency bias too. And I'm trying to make sure I'm not going too high, too low with anything. I don't know. I'm very fascinated with the mesmerism aspect of this. I'm very fascinated with how that is potentially intentionally and unintentionally maybe played with through cinematography, through the writing, through the music and all those sorts of things, and how it's left ambiguous. But the best ambiguous endings to me feel like the same conclusion, and this movie does that, and that's really impressive to me, to have all these different ways you can get to Rome. Ultimately it feels the same regardless if you see it as demonic forces or human condition at play or both. So I don't know, that's all. And you can interpret it and find new nuggets of truth or interest by looking at it through those different lenses. So that's a pretty strong story is what I'm saying. All that taken into account, I feel like this is very much a score that would be up for changing with a second viewing, with a week's hindsight, whatever. But we have the time we have. So I'm going to go with a 4.5 right down the center of you guys. Give it some room to grow, give it some room to drop as I sort of feel out how as I process it and maybe see it again and get a little bit more of a feel for it. I also watch this. When I say that I was in a hypnotic state, it also bears mentioning that I also was I worked for fucking 14 hours straight yesterday, and I got half a night's sleep. So I was dog fucking tired, and I might have been a bad beer situation for all I know.
That's a bad beer. 14-hour beer. That's a bad beer.
Would have been a 5.
Yeah. Would have been. But
woulda, shoulda, coulda.
For now, we're gonna have to settle with an aggregate of a 4.5, which is still extremely good. That's a wonderful rating.
Oh yeah, that's probably one of the highest Patreon picks we've had in our history.
So.
For sure. Yeah, it's rare that
well done, Kelvin.
That we get that high.
Kelvin, right? Did this?
I would say it's probably in the top 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we've had 5 star.
I was thinking, ratings. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking there might be a 5 star. Maybe somebody picked classic, but I can.
It's rare though.
Pull it out of my mind. Yeah.
So 4.5 from the Straight Chilling crew. Let's jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about.
No.
Our boy Kelvin did indeed send over an email with
prompted
his
you, Bob.
Damn, I know. I've been hypnotized by this movie. Juice, do you have that pulled up?
I do.
Fantastic.
I do. All right, here we go. Hey,
I want to forward any mention of soju specifically is inserted by the person speaking.
Yes.
Thank you, and continue.
All right. Hey, what's up, guys? It's the Straight Chillin' Mailman writing in this time about my Patreon pick. Oh God, what's this guy's name? Kurosawa's Cure.
Yes.
Whatever his first name is. This movie made, Kiyoshi. It is easier.
I mean, Yoshi is in the name. It's
Kiyoshi. This movie made me feel uneasy throughout my viewing of it, and it stuck with me since I first watched it last month. Oh wow! So Kelvin's fresh to it too. It was a blind purchase when I bought it. Wow. And I was not disappointed. The cinematography, the quietness, the acting, it is all on point. You guys are a lot better at the breakdown and reviewing stuff. So I'll just leave it at that. This movie is a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Thank you guys for reviewing it. Hopefully it did not disappoint. Hard with the Straight Chillin' crew. Keep chillin'. #hard with juice.
Nope.
Okay.
I think the score of 4.5 makes it pretty clear who he's really hard with. I see you, Kelvin.
It's not a competition. We're all very hard.
Well, you're a little more rigid, Bob, from what I hear.
They call me Rigid Bob. Yeah,
God damn.
4.5. We're generally on the same page with you there, Kelvin. Mailmang, Straight Chillin' Mailmang. Love to hear from him. Yeah, thanks again for picking this week's flick, man. I'll be sending you some stuff in the mail, by the way, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Randeezy, Rotten Tomatoes now?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Certified fresh to death.
This is the weirdest lead-in you've ever given me. All right.
Randy, can I do it? Do I have permission?
Yes, you've never asked permission before. This is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to have these gentlemen guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive score is on RottenTomatoes.com for both critics and users. We're talking about the film Cure from 1997, of course. There are 60 flat critical reviews for this film. I think I'm going to start with Bob today. I don't remember who I did it last. So Bob, what do you think that those reviewers thought of this film?
This is going to be pretty high, I think. How high do we go? I'll take the Project 86, please.
Oh, okay. All right. Juice, he took your boys. What are you going to do about that?
My boys. I think it'll be high too. And as I always say, it's foreign film, so it's going to get a little superficial boost, I believe. And it's already a really good film. So I guess it's really not that superficial. But I just think that I was go super high on those. So
famously, Troll 2 is just beloved by the critics.
Well, that was a mixed American.
Yeah.
Asian films always.
Okay,
straight to the top. But I think I'll go the Straight Chillin' average, which was 90.
90. All right. Well, that instinct's going to serve you well. It's a 93% certified as fuck. Damn, 93.
Oh, yeah.
That's a damn good score.
Yeah, that's quite high. Sounds like the critics are hard with soju.
No, that's not 100%.
Weird.
Close.
Yes, we were also close.
Not Bob.
Okay, sure. Bob's hovering in the 80s.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our audience score. There's over 5,000 ratings from our users on RottenTomatoes.com. Juice, we're going to start with you this time. What do you think those 5,000 ratings are going to put this film?
It's definitely going to be lower, but I think it'll still probably be high. Now that the boys have been sullied, I'll take an 85.
85. Bob, you?
86, please.
Not taking Bob's sloppy second.
You're riding the boys. Boy, the boys did you dirty, Bob. This one is going to go to Juice too. It's an 84%. You guys are right in the zone.
Gotta love that. Love to hear it. Love to hear that one.
The boys always let me down.
The hell you sweep. That's what you get for not taking Bob's sloppy seconds.
That's what you get for taking a necktie remedy, motherfucker. All right.
Necktie remedy.
That's a proverb for this movie.
Oh, my goodness.
Critics' consensus reads as follows: mesmerizing and psychologically intriguing. They really skimped on words for this particular consensus. Yeah. So that's appropriate though.
Yeah. Short and sweet.
Short and very sweet. There's only a handful of negative reviews, as we covered, from our critics. I'm just going to read a couple and hope that they have some humor to them. Sometimes they do. What is this? An episode of the Flintstones?
What?
I couldn't have made that up if I tried. What is this? An episode of the Flintstones?
It is not.
2 out of 4. I don't understand how you came to that conclusion.
What?
It is not. The only thing it does is there an episode of the Flintstones where somebody gets hypnotized?
There's gotta be, but
I mean,
come on.
So-
yeah, because it's a cartoon sitcom. Of course it does. I'm sure it has 3.
Yeah,
But-
I'm sure Bugs Bunny, I'm sure, has been hypnotized.
What is this,
but
Roseanne?
Yeah.
What? This guy's watching 7. Is like, what is this? Tom and Jerry? Show me something different. I've seen this before on the fucking Smurfs.
Wow.
What's in the box?
Smurfs did
This is a man with
Smurfs.
this man has brain damage. Is my concern. Moving on. Here's one more negative review, and maybe this one's from a top critic, so maybe it'll be more coherent. It's unsatisfying as a story precisely because it aspires to create a mounting sense of dread by enlarging questions. I mean, the questions are what's interesting about it to me. So I don't know if it's unsatisfying if it leaves me with interesting questions. Do you?
I am unsatisfied.
Why don't you just tell me what happens? Come on. I need a mentalist ending for this film.
Yeah.
Fucking top critic, my ass.
Disagree. I wonder if we'll ever be.
At least it was not.
For Rotten Tomatoes.
Probably.
That would be a huge error on their part.
Well, I mean,
what
the Flintstones
what pull
guy
quote
got
from this
in there.
episode would they put? That's true. I mean, I don't want to be some other podcast's Flintstone guy though.
All of our they just pull out some random quote when we're talking about shit or eating
They're
shit.
gonna have like this movie's hot brown in the booty hole.
Bring me a double helping of hot brown.
The pull quote,
so plump, so right.
The quote for this episode would just be hard with hypnotism.
Jesus Christ!
All of
that's our log line now.
Dude, all of our things are just hashtag hard with something.
There could be if we end up in the fucking critics section of goddamn Rotten Tomatoes, there's another podcast that could just read our blurbs for every movie they review, and it would be fucking better than this. They could rip us apart. All right, that's our Rotten Tomatoes segment. Let's move on with our lives.
Rip me apart.
Tear us apart.
Rip me apart.
Yes. Ooh, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Whoa,
slowly.
we just gave some Q-chays out there.
All right, Bob, what's the next segment?
There really wasn't much trivia. I already kind of sprinkled some of that in. But we are talking Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the Week.
Juice, what is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Oh, Cooter's a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter. We want the Cooter with the most points. 5 points of Cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall look and attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, I really don't know if there's going to be a Cooter in The Cure.
It's your boy, Mamma Mia.
I thought it was the lead singer, but maybe the drummer.
Robert Smith's a good guy, okay? We leave him alone.
Yes, Cure. Yeah. Mia is probably going to take this to the bank. Let's say, maybe manipulation.
Maybe.
I think you're manipulating your voice
a
right
little
now.
bit. Light.
That's always like our Cooter's I feel like that's like a core pillar almost.
Sexual deviance or manipulation.
Yeah.
Feel
If you get one of those, the vibes are thick instantly.
Cooter bedrock for sure.
Yeah,
Cooter
that's for
cornerstone.
Sure. Speaking of sexual deviancy, what do we think? I mean,
sister in the cornerstone.
He doesn't do anything particularly sexual directly, but he uses some sexist shit to manipulate somebody. I don't know if that really counts, but it's sexism, but not
sexual deviancy.
He doesn't seem to get his rocks off in any way. I think that's part of his deal.
Yeah.
Not that I can recall. Not directly.
I mean, yeah, one of the kills was like sexual in nature, but it wasn't his doing that we know of. So, yeah, I guess not. Smug arrogance, yes.
Out the ass.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I love when his kind of facade melts away, though.
Dude, it's effective.
I love the two different Mamma Mias because they're both very effective in their own right, and so I love when that facade melts away. Yeah, he's very smug, arrogant. We get a couple of scenes of that.
I like his looking attire personally. I think the man's looking pretty
too.
sharp.
I wrote a note that said that sweater's.
I've been looking for a goddamn cable knit sweater for like 3 years, and I cannot find one that works.
Now I will say though, so the sweater on point, swirly stash. Probably need to trim that up, my guy. That probably needs to go. Yeah, too thin.
Leave that shit in the middle school yard, my friend.
And also, the sweater is on point, but he's going full khaki. You can't go full khaki.
You go half.
Don't go full khaki.
Can't be khaki kin. Why not?
It needs to be like navy pants.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You can't go full khaki, he's just...
You just want him to be full sailor man.
He just, I don't know. I mean, sweater on point for sure.
I don't know.
I
think he's looking pretty sharp, so
middle school stash.
Actually, the stash, do you think that's a ding for looking attire? Because I feel like otherwise he's looking pretty good. So I think
I think we could give it to him for the stash. It's got creepy vibes.
Yeah. At least
I would say he's on Cooter watch for the stash.
Yeah, halfway there. And then patheticness.
Cooter stash right there. Sorry. Patheticness.
Yeah. I think, well, pathetic.
It's tough to, I don't think so. I think he's the most, like, he's smug and he, like, kind of gets away with everything. He gets everything he wants in the end. His animal magnetism is transferred to this new vessel.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
Forcing people to kill, like, for your own entertainment really is generally
I mean,
pathetic.
I definitely see I see it as kind of pathetic, I guess, but it's like, I don't know. Like, he's never out of control. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah,
like, he's always in control, so it's tough to ascribe that entirely.
Yeah.
It's hard too because like the character he puts on in a kind of way is pathetic. Like, what's going on? Who are you?
But that's
like,
part of the nip.
It's part of the nip. So
part of the nip.
It should be examined to make sure that all the nipples are okay.
Yes. Maybe that's another half star. So the two halves together make a full.
We're trying to
star.
get there. Yeah,
we're doing star rankings now. Okay.
Well,
3 points.
This is a full point.
Scale.
Yeah.
So we have manipulation, we have smug arrogance, and then the two half points together, I think, make a full point. We got him for the stash and the character being pathetic. So
I think he's a scoot and boogie myself. I think we should lock him on up.
Yeah.
Let's not be manipulated by this fuck.
He belongs in a museum for sure.
Before we wrap up the Cooter segment, do you think, probably at our 10-year party, our 500th episode party, that we will have a band playing the full Cooter song for people to enjoy?
You mean Coot, Scoot, and Boogie?
No, the theme song, the Cooter of the Week theme song.
I mean, we'll get Corey Taylor on the horn. Let's see what we can do.
Oh my God, that would be fucking good.
We should have like a whole. We got to get the Straight Chillin' theme song. We got the Cooter of the Week song. We need to put some.
We should have a rogues gallery of Cooter mugshots. That's what we should do.
An art installation of just all the Cooter headshots.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yep.
Be at our party.
Well, you know what we should do?
Party.
Keep moving. So we don't come up with any other ideas.
You know what we should do? Write all these songs. That's what we should do.
Yeah, and perform them and arrange them.
Yeah,
Straight
arrange a show and then have like an exhibit at that
vinyl.
show.
You can buy it on vinyl.
And then tour Europe with it.
Oh my God, that's a great idea. We got to do that.
Let's get to work, boys.
right, can we move on?
I can't wait
Bob?
to go on tour,
Bob.
boys.
Hey,
Do I have your permission to play What You Been Watching, Bump?
No, we're not doing that because we're recording so far in advance. I was gonna skip it since we're recording again in like a couple more days. So
Yeah, that's more
save
appropriate.
it for the next show.
Well, rest assured, if you're listening to this, I'm probably playing Tears of the Kingdom.
I believe it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. We also don't have any hotline screams because we're again recording so far in advance. But if you are listening and would like to call in and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Do you guys have any prompts you want to throw out for next week?
No.
Wait, what is the episode?
Your best Beavis and Butthead impression?
Next week, we're going to be talking about Evil Dead Rise.
Rise, bitches. What's your favorite? At this point, a lot of people have probably seen Evil Dead Rise. So, like we did with Scream, give us your rankings. How do you feel about the Evil Dead franchise? Put them in order.
Yeah.
And also, I'm curious to see who's a lifer with the Bruce Campbell comedic stylings and who likes to swing with the gory devils that we see in some of these newer iterations. I know it doesn't have to be a binary. I'm certainly like both, but I like to hear people's reasonings.
I'm definitely more on the updated side of
serious.
Yeah, I get that impression.
Yeah, but also I really like the first one a lot too. So, and that had the more grounded, of the three. I think that was my favorite one of the original three. So, I'm just more into like it being more brutal stylings.
Yes, call in.
Fair enough.
Rank your Evil Dead films, 904-638-3231. Make sure to check out Evil Dead Rise. Get ready for our next show. Until then, hit us up on all of our social media outlets. Search Straight Chilling Podcast anywhere you'll find us. And if you want to join in our daily Slack channel conversations, just hit us up on one of those social media outlets and I'll send you a link so you can do so. It is a great, wonderful community with very thoughtful, kind, generous people, and you should be a part of it.
Follow us on Instagram. See our shenanigans in Korea.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure we got into some trouble, some crazy things.
At the time of this dropping, I'll just be getting home. But yeah, I'm sure there's some wild ass pictures and shit that you don't want to miss. I guarantee it.
Oh my god!
Guarantee.
Subscribing's free, people.
Subscribe.
Give us some positive iTunes scores too while you're at it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we really do want to be top
because then
on Rotten Tomatoes.
Then we can really be in the critics section on Rotten Tomatoes and really fuck up the whole thing.
If you want us to take Rotten Tomatoes down from the inside out, give us that 5-star rating over on iTunes, please, and thank you.
Go make a new iTunes account, an extra one with a special,
hire a server farm
and give us all 5 stars.
Yes, thank you. In advance.
That's not how that works. Okay.
Do things. Until next time, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad.
It's too damn bad.